should be popping up here just a second. How's it going, everybody? This is the Osmo.com NHL DFS Strategy Show. I'm Jake Hari, joined, as I usually am on Mondays, but haven't been for a while, by Michael Clifford. Slim Cliffy, what's up, man? How you doing?
Doing good. Yeah, it has been a little while because we had that Monday right before Christmas. You were on vacation, and then I think the Monday before that was a small slate. So it's been, geez, almost close to a month
Yeah.
since you and I have been on a show together.
Yeah, so a lot has happened since. A lot happened this weekend around DFS. So if you've been on DFS Twitter, not really the topic of conversation for us on this show, but it is Bachelor Monday. I see some people talking about in chat. So I'm sure people are pretty fired up to meet the contestants. And there's also hockey going on today. So we'll talk about that. But yeah, man, what do you think about this 4-game slate? Just right off the top, like anything that catches your eye right off the top. I'm sure you've looked at the ownership projections we have up there. We have DraftKings and FanDuel now in beta, so we're working on those to get them better and better and better. That's obviously a premium product, but anything that jumps off the page for you on this slate that you want to hit off on the top?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like there's a ton of high-end talent for only 8 teams here. Like we have Matthews, we have Tavares, McDavid and McKinnon, so on and so on. Like there are a lot of McDavid and Draisaitl. I mean, there are a lot of expensive players on this slate, but there's only a handful of them, right? Like there's only 6 or 7, so you're going to be mixing in the same 6 or 7 guys on the slate. So two things about that. One is you're going to have to really focus on your cheaper stacks, the cheaper players, know where you're going to be able to save money and, not just throwing away a roster spot because you just picked a defenseman at 3K, like knowing which defenseman in that range you can use. And the second one is that late swap could probably be a big advantage here tonight. We'll get to the Columbus-Los Angeles game later, but there may be some guys returning in that game. And the way the slate is set up, there's no game anywhere as close to that time. So all 3 games earlier in the night will be done before they even hit the ice for warm-ups. So if you want to be a little bit more adventurous, and we're going to talk about the Leafs and their high ownership here in a minute, and you want to kind of differentiate, like I don't really envision a lot of stacks from the late game. Maybe the top line for the Kings, but certainly nothing from the side of the Blue Jackets. So if you want to leave, Dubois or Jenner as a center, and then have Nyquist or whomever in your utility, you can kind of wait and see what the lines are going to be late, because I don't, our projections don't have a lot of ownership in the late game. Certainly, nowhere near what Toronto and some Montreal players and some Winnipeg players are going to draw, and so on and so forth. So I think this is a night where, maybe you are sitting around watching the 2-hour premiere of The Bachelor and you got a little, you're going to be up late at night anyway. I think there's going to be a lot of value. Not that it's going to be a high scoring game, but there's only going to be so many goals on the slate. So I think there's going to be some value to sticking around to that 10:30 start and figuring out, maybe some 2-man mini stacks. Maybe you want to do a mini power play stack or something like that. I think there's going to be some value in waiting around and doing some late swaps with that late game.
Yeah, whenever you've got the standalone game kind of at the end, where you kind of can see the writing on the wall as far as what's the key to the slate. All right, are we still waiting for a cheap stack to go off in that last game? Because now all of a sudden, if you can late swap or switch around a defenseman that you're going to be, like if you're chasing, you're behind 10, 12 points, and you've got an expensive defenseman in that game, maybe you swap to a cheaper guy to at least give yourself a chance at a bank or something like that. So that's the way I'm thinking about it too, is just trying to utilize late swap if the nuts have not been found, I guess, by the time we get to that late game, because it could be over really quickly, talking about this Leafs ownership. And rightfully so. I think they've got huge ownership. So should be a fun one to talk about. I like slates of this size. Let's talk about Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. That is our presenting sponsor. If you have not joined yet on Yahoo, promo code OSMO is how you get up to $30 in Yahoo Sports rewards points. For NBA today, they've got some nice contests, as they always do. Big 10K to first, and their $15 Golf is something that I'm going to try to play over on Yahoo a little bit. I'm very bad at PGA DFS, but I think with the tools on our site, and with the CSV edit, I think it's going to be pretty soft for golf over there. The contests are a little bit smaller, but you still get the nice management fees compared to some other sites, about 75% of what you're going to pay over on DraftKings and FanDuel. Of course, hockey, been talking about this $12, the $3, we've got the $1. You can grind a bankroll, I think, a lot easier on Yahoo compared to the other sites. And then football, of course, $15K to first in the $15, $25 entry. They have $8K to first in that. Flatter payouts, all that good stuff. If you would like to become a member, we've got a couple ways we're helping you out early in 2020. Promo code New Year, you get 20% off the first year of an Osmo Plus Platinum yearly package. So if you lock in for a year, you can save $200 off of all access, and that includes all the sports and basically everything on the site, excluding FC. You would have to purchase that separately. And then we've got another 2020 promo. It is promo code 2020 to get all access Osmo Plus Platinum, $20 for 20 days of that service. So come try us out, join Slack, use all the NHL tools and NBA and NFL for the last month or so. Pretty good deal we've got going on. NHL projections, if you want to try those out for free today, you can. Those that's part of our free premium content for the day. NBA expert survey is also going to be free. So now that we've got that out of the way, actually let's do lineup study. I kind of forgot about this, but I do have it up. Let's check out Saturday's edition. Did you play this slate?
Yeah, I think I just went one lineup. I wasn't around at lock, so I wasn't able to play much on Saturday.
Okay, I got to refresh my memory on this slate. Bobby Boom, wow, one of the chat regulars. Let's see, he's in 8th place here. We're going to take a look at his lineup. I'm going to see what he had. He had Zibanejad, Kreider, McKinnon, Rantanen, Makar, Craig Smith, Grimraldi, and Tenorti. That is a punt D-man special, $2,500, and he was 0.2% owned. He only got 1.5 points, but got him on a line of construction that was able to get close to binking. So congrats to Boom. Looks like he had a bunch of quality lineups in there and made a decent profit. The winner of this tournament was Miles Reed, who had, wow, this is a really cashy lineup. I don't know if you saw this, but it's McKinnon, Rantanen, so some correlation there. And then Ryan Johansson one off, Brian Rust, Marcus Pettersson, Zach Hyman one off, Kevin Shattenkirk, and Clayton Keller with Markstrom in net. That has to be just a straight cash lineup, right? There's basically no correlation.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, but it was a small slate on Saturday. It was only a 7-game slate,
games,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a cash lineup.
Yeah. Scotty Mack, I think, is also a user maybe in our YouTube chat and our premium Slack as well. Only had 5 lineups, but got second in the 10K twine here. McKinnon, Kadri, Rantanen, so power play stack. No D-man, though. Keller, Kessel, Derek Stepan, and then Yossi Sergachev is D-men. So not max correlation, but maybe on a smaller slate, I think that sort of lineup construction is more viable as you get smaller and smaller. Whereas like on these 12 gamers, you're going to see a ton of 4-3-1, and even like 5-3-1, 5-2-1. I think we talked about when Druby had the qualifying win the other night. He ran a 5-2-1. So stuff like that more viable on bigger slates. Whereas here we see in a bunch of tournaments that correlation wasn't nearly as important. Same thing in the, let's see, this is the 265. Man, all these lineups just like cash looking. Horvat, Pearson, Hornquist, Toffoli, McKinnon, Keller, and then Yossi Fox. Wow. Guess you should not have stacked on Saturday is the lesson here. Let's move it on to this slate though. We've got about 45 minutes to break this down. We're going to start with the main event of the night, Edmonton Oilers and Toronto Maple Leafs. We've got a 2.8 implied total for the Oilers, 3.7 for the Leafs. Mike Smith and Freddie Anderson are your goalies. I don't think there's a lot of news, but just to recap kind of the top 6 lines here, we've got Draisaitl with Nugent Hopkins and Yamamoto, McDavid with Neal and Zach Kassian, And then you get a stacked top line with Matthews, Marner, Zach Hyman, the other winger, and then Tavares, Nylander, Kerfoot is rounding out the top 6 for the Maple Leafs. They're going to be mega chalk tonight. We're seeing some of their skaters being projected at 35, 36% ownership right now. Is there any way to avoid them? Should you be avoiding the Leafs at all on this slate?
I mean, okay. So if I was like one lineup warrior tonight, I wouldn't play the Leafs because they're just going to be so wildly popular. Like you said, we have Matthews at like 35%. So what's the chance? Like we talked about all the elite talent on this slate. Is there really a 1 in 3 chance that his line is a high scoring line? Like maybe. Like, you got to think the Oilers power play stack, the Colorado power play stack. I mean, Winnipeg and Montreal, that Winnipeg top line. Like, it'd be really close. Like, I think there's a good chance that some sort of Toronto combination
right. Yeah, so that's
is the top stack. But is it just going to be the full 5v5 line? Is it going to be the full power play stack? Is it going to be, the top line plus Pierre Engvall for something like that for some reason because they have been switching up the lines in games. Like, I'm 3-maxing tonight, I think, so I'm not playing the Leafs. Like, I'm just leaving them alone altogether.
You're not playing any Leaf skaters at all?
Any Leaf skaters. Well, the thing, man, we look at our ownership projections, and it's 7 of the top 15 guys and 9 of the top 20 or something like that are all Leafs. Like, it's absurd. It's 5 guys in the top 6, plus Riley and Barry, plus Anderson, plus there's one guy on the third line, I think, that I missed. So I think there's 9 guys in the top 20 in ownership projections. Like, I'm rostering. I hate Mike Smith. I think he's one of the worst goalies in the NHL, and I have him in 2 out of my 3 lineups just because I think it's such a massive leverage opportunity. When you're going to have multiple players from one team on a 4-game slate probably over 25%, I think it's just such a great leverage opportunity that I'm more excited to play Smith than I am to play the Leafs. And trust me, I am fully prepared to just take a flat bagel on this slate. I just think it's worth the 1 in 5 or 1 in 6 times that Smith has a good game on the road in the league or on the road against Toronto. I think it's worth it to target him over Toronto. Now, if you're playing 150 lineups, obviously that's a completely different situation. You can't fade the Leafs in 150 lineups because you're probably going to be sunk. The way I would do it is something with a power play stack or something with a line stack, and then add a player to it. Like I mentioned, Pierre Engvall. I really like him here tonight. If you look at his splits, I think he's at 22 games now in the NHL this year, and his first 11 games he's only playing like 9-10 minutes a night. Now he's up to 13-14 minutes a game. Like he's getting Sheldon Keefe's trust. So I think that's probably where I would go, is that if I was going to use the Leafs, it wouldn't just be Toronto power play 5-man power play stack. It wouldn't be just Hyman, Matthews, Marner, something like that. It would be like a 6-man Josh stack. It would be a 2 or 3-man stack, and then add a guy from the third line or something like that. Like if you just straight missionary the top line plus Barry or something like that, like you may as well just send your money to a charity now. Like that's just the way I feel. Like when I see ownership numbers like that, that's just kind of the way I feel about it, is that like if you're playing one lineup and you're still honing in on the Leafs, you have to get like incredibly like crazy different, or else I think you're just wasting your money.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I mean, so for me and you, it's gonna be a little bit different. I'm playing 100 lineups tonight. That's the plan right now, and so like all my top guys, it's gonna be like correlated with the ownership projections, and that's not always the case. But I think tonight, like the Leafs are the best spot. You've got 2 lines that you could stack. Even strength. Maybe you could make a case for the third. I'm not really going there too often, but you've also got the power play. And so you could do a ton of different things. You can go Tavares, Nylander, Matthews, Tavares, Nylander, Marner, or the same thing, and take one skater from the second line and go Matthews, Marner with Tyson Barrie. So I'm getting to a bunch of 4-man stacks, and I'm a little worried about getting dominated out of that, like because some people will have the 5-man. So if the power play just goes crazy, then I'm probably not even going to have that good of a night. But I'm also going to have some 5-on-5 stacks. But I mean, I don't know. I don't see how I avoid this. I get it in the 3 max. And I was actually going to ask you about Smith if since you said that you weren't playing Leafs, if you were going to just go full contrarian and play Smith here, because with this bonus here, like if he puts up 30 plus DK points, which he's got a pretty decent chance to do, I think, like you said, maybe 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5 times. And the ownership's not going to be there on him at all if he lets up even like 2 goals. And they're not both from the same guy. Like it's not 2 Matthews goals where he has 30 DK points or something like that. I think you're probably going to be okay, even if he doesn't get the win. So you just need the Leafs to kind of have a tame performance and Smith to hit the 35 save bonus, which I think he's probably got the best chance to do tonight, right?
Yeah, him or Hellebuck.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, that'd be the other one. So, yeah, I think, and another way I think if you want to get away from traditional stacks would be change up the defenseman. Is don't just use Barry or Riley, right? Is go use Justin Hall, go use Travis Dermott, go dig into the cheaper defenseman. Don't just just because you're using 3 guys off the Toronto power play doesn't mean you have to use Tyson Barrie or something like that. Like you can just use Justin Hall, take the savings, and be a little bit different. Don't forget, like this is something I probably should have mentioned in my Power Plays article. I do a Power Plays article at Osmo every Monday and Tuesday. None of the teams on the slate tonight are teams that take a lot of penalties. If I'm not mistaken, Colorado is the most penalized team on the slate, and they're outside the top 10. So, like, I'm not expecting a lot of power plays anywhere on this slate. So, I think, yeah, power play stacks are viable, but I'd imagine that if you're going to stack the Leafs, you'll probably want, like I said, stack a 5v5 line, then add someone else, like a Tavares line, and then add Marner, or Matthews line, and then add Engvall, and then add Hall or something like that. Like you're gonna have to dig down to the bottom of that roster.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you are playing it missionary, like you said, you're like just make sure you're doing something different with your defenseman. You're going 3-2-2, just something to make yourself not like completely chalk build, because like that, like you just don't want dupes on any size slate really, but it's obviously easier to have dupes on a 4-game slate. And so what I'm seeing based on our ownership projection, I just like to look at like what are the most owned 3-3 lineups. So I'll run a bunch of those in Fantasy Cruncher and then export them. And it's like, yeah, all the top lineups that are likely to get duped are Leafs 3-man stacks with your average filler stack and a 1 or 2 spend up defensemen. So just be sure you're avoiding those. I don't think you need to go crazy and fade the Leafs here, especially if you have like more than a few lineups. But yeah, you might have a great Mike Smith leverage spot. If he's good Mike Smith tonight, you could be raking in all the money. What about the Edmonton side?
For a good Mike Smith. On the Edmonton side, I mean, Toronto's numbers, the defensive numbers anyway, have gotten better with their new line combinations. Like if you look at the numbers over the last 5 weeks or whatever, basically since Keefe came on at the end of November, like both top lines have expected goals against per 60 under 2. Like that's pretty bad. Now, I think that applies more to Leon Draisaitl's line than it does to McDavid, because McDavid, like, it doesn't matter what defense is on the other side. Like he could shred anybody. So it doesn't matter how well they're playing defensively. McDavid's still McDavid, but I think that affects the Draisaitl Nugent Hopkins line a little bit more, because like they aren't the game breakers that McDavid is, obviously. So I think if I were to stack from the Oilers, I would do one of 2 things. It would be, some sort of power play stack where you use McDavid and Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins, and Klepom and those guys, or some sort of top line stack. And that'd be like McDavid with Neal or McDavid with Cassian, and then you can throw in a cheap defenseman like Ethan Bear if you want. He's still playing 21, 22 minutes a night, or you can move up. Darnell Nurse, his price has come down a reasonable amount. I think he's 4,500 here today. So that's a guy he's that combo meal type guy. That he's the guy that can get 5 shots and 3 blocks in a game. Like he doesn't need to be on the top power play to have value. I think he's underpriced at 4,500, so I like Darnell Nurse here a lot here tonight. So, like, I think that's the two ways that I would attack Edmonton here today is either power play stack or some sort of two-man stack off the top line. Like, I don't think both Cassian and Neal go off. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think they both, like, I just can't see them both having multi-goal games or something like that. So it'd be McDavid and Neal or McDavid and Cassian and then throwing a defenseman. That's like I really like Edmonton here tonight because I think they're going to get seriously overlooked. I don't care how they're playing. I don't care how the Leafs are playing, et cetera, et cetera. It's still Connor McDavid.
Yep.
Anytime I can get him at what I think, like he should be over 20% tonight, and I think our projections have him closer to 13, 14%. So anytime I can get him at a depressed ownership on a small slate like this, like I'm gonna hammer him. So as of right now, I have McDavid in all three of my lineups.
Wow. All right. So taking some heavy stances here. I like it. I prefer to stack up Edmonton. Like you said, where you do like a broken power play stack with McDavid, Neal, Draisaitl, or Nugent Hopkins with Clefbaum or something like that. Feels like it's never McDavid's full even strength line that goes off when he's not with Draisaitl. So
no, like I think like look at Gaetan Haas or Joaquin Nygaard or however many guys have come through that top line this year. Like I don't know if they have 5 goals between them. So like it's just unless Draisaitl's there, like you're correct. It's you pick one of the wingers, not both of them.
What about Clefbaum? Where does he rank on your hierarchy of top defensemen tonight?
I mean, I have him second in points.
Okay.
But again, like I said, he's a guy that derives a lot. Like Toronto's not a team that takes a lot of penalties. Clefbaum's a guy that derives a lot of value from the power play. So I don't mind. I wouldn't mind you. Like I think he's one of those guys that has a low floor and a low ceiling here tonight. I don't know if that makes sense, or a high floor and a low ceiling. Like I think really good chance that he gets the 3 shot block bonus. But unless that power play goes off, like I don't think he goes off. You know what I mean? So it's kind of worrisome for like I wouldn't really be that interested in Clefbaum for cash games. I think I'd be more interested in him for tournaments. But again, if you're one-offing him in tournaments, you're probably going to need the power play to go off to do something. So if you're one-offing him, then McDavid and Draisaitl are probably going to go off if Clefbaum has a good game too. So.
Yeah, just wanted to make a quick note. Looking at our rankings, we have the Edmonton second line as a really good value, but like you're stacking an even strength line that doesn't include McDavid. I'm usually against that with the Oilers. Like I'll have some of them, but like I'm gonna end up limiting my exposure because if you just run the crunch with using our projections or our rankings, you're probably going to get a lot of Edmonton 2 as a filler stack, and I'm not that comfortable playing a lot of them because I think they're going to grade out well at other places, and I don't really have interest in playing them as a popular filler.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would never play the Oilers unless McDavid was in my lineup too.
Yep. And
I mean, he figures in on like half their goals, so like what do you like I don't know what people are hoping to gain by not playing him.
You could make a rule with Clefbaum or like Draisaitl or Nugent Hopkins and just say if you play that guy in Fantasy Cruncher, then you have to play McDavid, and so it'll just force in power play stacks only, which might be a smart way to attack it tonight. Let's go to the Jets and the Canadiens. 3 implied total for the Jets, 3.5 for Montreal. Connor Hellebuck and Carey Price are your goalies. Familiar name up on the top line here for Montreal. So that's kind of the one big change. You've still got Domi, Lekin, and Suzuki as the second line. And then no changes, it looks like, for the Jets' top 6. Not really seeing a lot going on with defensemen or anything. Ben Sherratt's playing like 40 minutes a night. So he'll probably continue to do that at 4,200. But what do you like in this game? What do you think of Kovalchuk on this top line with Danault and Tatar?
Like, I don't hate it for this reason, is that Danault and Tatar are pretty good defensively on, like, just the two of them. And Brendan Gallagher makes them really good defensively, so that's definitely a loss. But Tatar and Danault are still good defensively on their own. The problem is that Kovalchuk is extremely one-dimensional at this point. So, like, losing Gallagher probably makes them an average defensive line, but losing Gallagher and replacing him with Kovalchuk probably makes them below average defensively. So I like the top line and I like the price, and I like the matchup. Like, there's a lot to like about Tatar, Danault, Kovalchuk. I mean, they're 13-3, I believe. So on a night where you have so many expensive players and so many expensive stacks, to have a top line, 2 out of 3 have power play correlation in a good matchup for a cheap price, like, it's kind of hard to get away from Montreal here tonight. I do like, I wrote them up in my power plays article, the Montreal, kind of like a top power play stack, sort of, if you want to call it that. Danault, Tatar. In the write-up, I had Suzuki, but I also mentioned that if you want to take out Suzuki and add in Petrie, it's basically just a Montreal power play stack, and it's for this reason. Winnipeg is one of the least penalized teams in the NHL, but they probably have the worst penalty kill. They're last in goals against per minute, 29th in shots allowed per minute. Like, it's not a mirage. This penalty kill is just atrocious. And that power play has looked better, recently, despite the injuries. So I do like that, kind of like a broken Montreal stack, like Tatar, Danault, Suzuki, or Tatar, Danault, Cousins, and then if you want to throw in Peachy or something like that, they're going to be facing off against the Winnipeg top line, Connor, Scheifele, and Laine, and that top line might actually be the worst defensive line in hockey. Like, I mean that. That's not hyperbole. I mean that in all sincerity. They're expected. I wrote about it in the article on Osmo.com. Their expected goals against is 3.1 per 60 minutes at 5-on-5, and the Rangers as a team are at 2.7. So like this, that line is like 15% worse than the Rangers are collectively defensively. So like, this is a great matchup for that Montreal top line. It's just, what can Kovalchuk actually bring? So that's why, like, I think I'm going to be leaving him off my stacks. I certainly understand that people want to use him. He's 3K. We know what he's been capable of doing in the past. Maybe it was just Los Angeles. I mean, how many players actually look good playing for Los Angeles, like, at any point in the last 3 years? Yeah. So that's kind of the hope that you're clinging to. I think he's kind of cooked, so I'm leaving him off my stacks. I think the ownership's going to be too high. Like, I think we have him around 14 or 15%. I think it's going to be a little bit too high for me to use him, but I'll certainly understand if people want to use him. But yeah, that Montreal top line, at least the top power play stack part of it, I have a lot of interest in.
Yeah, I kind of like both sides, or both lines here for Montreal. The Domi, Lekin, and Suzuki line's been one I've been playing while they're cheap. Maybe not the elite 5-on-5 matchup. They probably won't see as much time against Scheifele, Connor, and Laine. Someone just asked in chat also, who's going to see Winnipeg 1? Winnipeg 1's going to see Danault, Tatar, and Kovalchuk. Is that right? Is that what you have as well?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Almost the entire game.
Okay. So there you go. And then it's just kind of a math problem after that. Like, yeah, they're not going to be as good. Like, if this were with Gallagher, I think Montreal 1 might be my top stack of the entire night. Probably.
They would be for me too. Yep. I agree.
So that kind of stings, but now you've got a chalkier Montreal team, probably because you've got this 3K winger that is a name that people know. And so I'm playing both of the top 2 lines here for Montreal pretty heavily. And then on the Jets side, it's really the top line or nothing for me. Do you want to get off of them at all because of the matchup with Danault and Tatar? Or are you comfortable playing them?
I mean, no, I'm comfortable playing them. Like I said, I think if they had Lehkonen or somebody up there, I'd be a lot more concerned. Like, Kovalchuk wasn't really that good defensively, even when he was amongst the best players in the league like 8-9 years ago. Now that he's 36 years old or whatever he is, he's not going to be good defensively. So that matchup doesn't worry me at all. I do like the Winnipeg top line. Like, I normally wouldn't like them going in if Gallagher was there. I don't mind them in this matchup. Another thing is the price has gone down. I mean, they're still expensive. They're over 20K, but don't forget there have been times in recent slates where they've been over 22K. on DraftKings, so the price has come down a bit. I think the matchup is probably better than some people might give it credit for. And Montreal doesn't really have a very good penalty kill. Like, if I'm not mistaken, they're bottom 10 in the league in goals against per 60, shots against per 60, expected goals against per 60. Like, I think Montreal again, like I said earlier, there aren't a lot of teams that are penalized. Montreal's a bottom 10 team in taking penalties, but they're kind of like the Jets. The penalties they do take, they have a hard time killing off. So I'm with you. If I'm on the Winnipeg side, it's top line or bust for me. I don't have if you want to sub out Kyle Connor and sub in Wheeler, or sub out Line and sub in Wheeler, if you want to get Wheeler there somehow, I have no problem with that. I don't have a lot of interest in the second line. They haven't played that well there since Jack Roslovic joined it. I just don't think he's suitable to play on that second line. I prefer somebody else. Like, even if they moved up, like, I'd take Andrew Kopp over Roslovic right now. So for me, like, I'm with you. It's that top line or bust for Winnipeg. I do like Neil Pionk for the reasons that I outlined in my Power Plays article and what I just mentioned about Montreal's penalty kill. I like Pionk here tonight. Another thing to mention about Winnipeg is they called up Sami Niku. He's a prospect defenseman for them. He's played some games for them in the past. For whatever reason, he hasn't been able to stick with them, but his production numbers are very good in the AHL, and his underlying metrics are also excellent. Like, he's a really good puck-moving defenseman. He just hasn't been able to crack the lineup for one reason or another. So if you're looking for an absolute punt, I don't mind Niku here tonight because he is a genuine puck-moving defenseman. I'm not just saying that because he's a young prospect getting called up. He's actually a good young puck-moving defenseman. It's just I don't think he'll see a lot of minutes tonight. Like, maybe if he sees 16 or 17 minutes, I think that'll be a good game. So it's just a pure punt more than anything.
Yeah. Corsi calling us crazy that we're not wild about Winnipeg too because of the matchup with the Domi line.
No, don't get me wrong. It's a great matchup. I just don't think it's a good line.
Yeah,
like
that's my problem with them too.
Like, at all. Like, I just do not think it's a good line. Now, I think, like I said, if you want to use Wheeler as part of the top line power play stack, I'm fine with that. I don't mind using Ehlers as a one-off either. If anybody's going to score on that line, it's going to be him. It's not going to be Roslovic. It's not going to be Wheeler. So I don't mind using Ehlers as a one-off, but I don't think I can see myself three-man stacking the second line, regardless of the matchup.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about it either. If the slate started right now, I'd have 3 lineups out of 100 with Wheeler, and I think a couple of those are power play stacks. So very little of Winnipeg 2 for me. Of course, he's going to have all the money. If they go off, I'm comfortable with that, I think. There was something else I was going to mention. You mentioned Petrie. He's one of my top defensemen tonight as well. Just been playing incredibly well lately. What about Weber at 6,400? I think he's up there in the ownership projection. Yeah, he's one of our highest owned skaters tonight. $6,400. But that sounds like that's not the power play unit you're targeting that much, right?
No, he's on the one with like Cousins and Wheel and Kotkaniemi and all them. Like, I have Weber's as for some, like, I don't know why my projections have it. That's why Clefbaum is my number 2. I have Weber's at number 1 projected, but I just have no interest in playing him on that power play unit. Like, I just look at it and I see 2 guys that probably should be in the AHL. Jesperi Kotkaniemi, who's a 19-year-old center who's not an offensive dynamo, and then Kovalchuk. Like, okay, thanks. I mean, Weber can drop a bomb and score from center ice. That's definitely, he has that capability. I think I'd probably, like you mentioned, Petrie. There's just so many guys in the $3,000 to $5,000 range that I like. Petrie's one, Nurse is another. Pionk is the guy that we mentioned. We'll get to a couple guys in the late game. Like, there's just so many defensemen in the 3,000 to 5,000 range. I find it hard to spend up to the 6K plus guys here tonight.
Yeah, I think that's fair. There's just not a lot of great defensemen tonight. You mentioned Clefbaum, and since I'm playing so much Montreal, I guess I'm just correlating with Weber, like when I'm going to the Domi line.
I mean, okay, here's the one instance where I could see using Weber, and I think it's viable, and it's using Montreal's third line, Kotkaniemi and Cousins. Sure. And who was the guy?
Poling.
Oh yeah, that's right, Ryan Poehling. Kotkaniemi and Cousins are both under 4K. And then you can add in Weber, so you can get a 3-man stack for like 13K or something like that. Nobody will have it. Montreal three's numbers, including going back to last year, at least with Kotkaniemi and Cousins, because Paley doesn't have many minutes with him, doesn't have many games in the NHL period. But the numbers for Kotkaniemi and Cousins are pretty good going back to last year. At least like above average offensively. Now, having a third line that's above average offensively is something pretty, that's good for the Habs. It's good for us too, because I can't see many people getting down to Kotkaniemi and Cousins.
No.
Certainly not as a 2-man stack. So, I do like adding Shea Weber there, because if that power play does something, he's definitely going to be a part of it. Kotkaniemi is going to be there with him. I think that third line matches up well against the depth, the second and third lines from Winnipeg. So that Montreal third line, I do like them as a really contrarian deep stack, especially on a small 4-game slate like we have here tonight, and using Weber with them.
Yeah, I like it. I'm definitely going to have a couple Montreal 2 or 3 shares as well. I just kind of like the spot for them overall, but I can't really pinpoint something that I want to make a major stand on, whereas the Winnipeg side is the top line by a pretty wide margin. Let's go to the next game. Colorado and the New York Islanders. 3 implied total for the Avs, 2.6 for the Islanders. Pavel Francouz against Semyon Varlamov. Those are your goalies. Looking at changes here, I think we've had... have we had Nelson with Lee and Eberle over the weekend? I can't remember. Barzal, Beauvillier, Josh Bailey. Nothing really changing on the Avs. Well, actually, McKinnon, Landeskog, Donskoy, we've seen that. Rantanen's moved around, so he's with Comfer and Burakovsky. I believe that's confirmed. Anything sticking out to you in this game?
Like, I don't really know how much of Colorado I want here tonight. Like, it's not a good I think I'd probably rather have Varlamov in net than stacking Colorado. Now, the reason I say that is that the Islanders are kind of like the Minnesota Wild of the East. They allow a lot of shots, but they don't allow a lot of quality shots. So that's why you can see their goalies for basically a season and a half now under Barry Trotz have had great save percentages, because they're not facing a lot of quality shots. So that's why I have some interest in Varlamov here tonight. I mean, I just don't, at this point with the Avs changing their lines basically like every game, there's no stack, at least a 3-man 5-on-5 stack that I trust to use, completely. Like I know you can't really say that about any line in the NHL, but there was a time where it was Colorado 1 and then Kadri with Donskoy and Burakovsky, and those are just the lines game in and game out. They seem to be changing the lines almost every game, so it makes me kind of scared to use Colorado as a full 3 or 4-man stack here tonight. Now, using McKinnon one off, or using even a Donskoy one off or something like that, I'm fine with that. I just don't know about stacking. Now, I do have interest in the Barzal line on the side of the Islanders. Now, for the one, Colorado actually is the most penalized team on the slate, so that's good for us, because the Barzal, Bailey, Beauvillier line has perfect power play correlation. And 2, that line's actually been above average offensively this year, going back to last year, and being above average offensively on the Islanders is actually quite the accomplishment. It's a team that really just drags down the pace, and they're more opportunists than they are trying to generate consistent offense. So that they're actually good offensively is kind of surprising, but they are. And they'll probably get matched up against the McKinnon line. And I've talked about in the past that I think Landeskog is overrated defensively. McKinnon is good defensively, but not great. Donskoy is kind of so-so. Like, it's not a really hard matchup. Like, either of the top 2 lines for Colorado are really tough matchups, I don't think. So I'm not worried about the matchup. I love the perfect power play correlation. Devin Taves is running the blue line for them on the power play if you want to use them. So if I had to pick one stack out of this entire game, it would be Barzal, Beauvillier, Bailey. Maybe you can use Taves if you want on the blue line. But I'll be honest, I don't really have a ton of interest in this game. I think for me, it just screams like 2-1 or 3-1 or something like that.
I think this is my lowest exposed game. I'm not super high on the McKinnon line here. They're always going to get ownership because it's like McDavid, like he and probably to a larger extent, just because McKinnon's been one of the best players in DFS. So you're seeing his ownership up high. I usually pay attention to like the other like the wingers and just see where they're at to get an idea of like how owned the actual 3-man stack is going to be. And it's a little bit high, I think, for tonight. Like I don't think it's a good matchup against the Islanders. You mentioned they allow a bunch of shots, but not a lot of high quality shots. And so on a slate where I think they might be sneaky popular, I'm gonna be underweight on the McKinnon line, it appears. And then I think if I'm going to like getting overweight on one of these Colorado stacks, it's probably Comfort, Burakovsky, and Rantanen. Just because it's third line. Not a lot of people use third lines. They're cheap. It's kind of the unknown factor as well. Who knows if they'll even stay together based on what Colorado's been doing lately. But that's kind of the line I like against the Islanders' depth lines. And then on the Islanders side, I prefer them over Colorado. If I just had to choose one team to stack up here, it's kind of like Montreal to a lesser extent, though. I don't think I'm going to have these lines higher than the Montreal lines, like more exposed than the Montreal lines in my final crunch here. But the Nelson Lee Eberle line looks like pretty good ownership in our projection. So if I had to choose just one, it'd probably be them. So I don't know. It's kind of a coin flip. I hate playing the Islanders. I think you're muted here.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say it's just the worst because you're gonna have a 3-man Barzal, Bailey, Beauvillier stack,
Yep.
and then Tom Kunackle's gonna score the only 2 goals or
Yep.
something. That's just kind of the way it goes with the Islanders. But
Yeah, it's they're just not a fun team. Are they still doing the thing where they have like all their lines playing between 13 and 16 minutes? Like they did that a ton last year. Where it was like the top two lines were not playing.
It's not as bad this year. It's something it is funny you mentioned that because I made a point to mention in my Power Plays article that they do have a lot of guys that skate around the 15, 16, 17 minute mark. But Brock Nelson was one guy that I pinpointed. He's been at like 18:31 the last month, and it was 18:41 the 2 months before that. So he's been pretty much the same spot.
Yeah.
It's just seems like Nelson's like 18 and a half, Barzal's like 18, and everybody else just 15 to 17. Yeah. They're just stuck there.
Yeah, so I guess it's not that big of a deal on a short slate with like softer pricing. But that's why they always like pop as good value when they've got a good implied total, it seems like. But you're never getting like the 21 minutes that you might get for like a Colorado one or even someone a little bit less expensive. So
yeah, just one last guy I want to mention. It was Ryan Pulock. He's playing more minutes lately, I guess you could say, because they've had some injuries. He's one of the guys in that 3,000 to 5,000 range that I said I like. So I do like Pulock here tonight. As a one-off, you don't necessarily have to have him in stacks or anything like that. You can just use him as a one-off. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I like that call. I need to look into him. I haven't gotten him at all lately. Like if you just use this year's rates and like shot attempt stuff, he hasn't been as much of a beast as he was kind of this time last season, where I felt like I was playing him every single slate.
Yeah, no, it seems like this year he's blocking more shots but shooting less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
probably indicative. Yeah, that's where I was going with it. Probably indicative of the team as a whole, that they don't have the puck as much as they did last year.
Yeah. Any other defenseman besides like Makar on the Colorado side? I mean, he's 6K. This seems, I guess it would just be a pay up to be contrarian spot. Like,
yeah,
you can always make a case for someone, but man.
Yeah, Eric. I've just been plugging in one of Eric Johnson or Ian Cole, okay. Just because I think Ryan Graves' price got too expensive. I rarely pay that far up for Makar unless I'm stacking the power play. So great, like Johnson or Cole, basically flip a coin. I don't think there's much daylight separating them. There's almost none in my ownership in my point projections. So those are the like it'd be the cheap defenseman from Colorado that I'd be targeting.
Yep. Fair enough. I agree. And people want to get your take on punt defensemen at the end of the show. So remind me that if you've got any guys you're eyeing down. Let's go.
Well, there's
Nope.
one we mentioned earlier was Sami Niku
Yeah.
for the Jets. He's just joining. Like I said, he's a good puck moving defenseman. They don't have many of those, and he's only 2,600 on DK.
I like it. All right, let's go to the last game. If you guys could throw us a like, that would be very helpful. It helps us continue to do this kind of content for free. Just want to make sure I mention that before you leave, right after the game is over. Blue Jackets, Kings, another marquee matchup here. 2.7 implied total for both teams. Merzlikins and Quick expected to go. We're not going to, so this is a weird slate because we've got 3-7 Eastern starts, and then, like you said, if anybody wasn't here at the top of the show, late swap is going to be a thing, especially if we don't get clarity as far as like what the nut plays are in the first 3 games. Like if it's kind of a low scoring slate. So I would try to be around to swap if you are multi-entering. I'm certainly going to try to make some swaps here and there if I can. But what are your overall thoughts on this game here?
Well, I think the first thing that should be said is that one of the reasons I mentioned the late swap is there could be some guys returning to the lineup for the Jackets tonight. It looks like Marcus Nudivara is for sure going to play. He was activated off the injured reserve. It's not a huge deal for us. He'll just go in and slide in on the third pair for Columbus, so I don't think anything will change in the top 4. The one that would change a lot is Cam Atkinson. Adam Daly, again, the matchup stuff I get is from Adam Daly, so A Daly Frey on Twitter, Adam Daly Fry is who I subscribe to get my matchup stuff. So if you want to streamline your word, I recommend subscribing to his Patreon. But anyways, he unearthed a nugget that Cam Atkinson was practicing on the power play in Columbus's last practice. That usually is the last step a player takes before they rejoin the lineup. Like it's usually skating before the team, skating with non-contact in practice, skating with contact in practice, and then the final step is skating on the power play unit because that indicates that, yes, you're ready to play in the next game. Now, he didn't commit to it, and they still said technically kind of game time decision 50-50, but Cam Atkinson returning for this game would be huge, not only just for, Columbus's sake, but because of that late swap option. Like if you want to, let's say you can put Anze Kopitar in your utility, and then if it looks like Atkinson's in, you can just swap over to Atkinson or something like that. Or you can use Dubois in your center and then Kopitar in your utility, and then you can switch your guys around, do what you want. Like I think it's worth constructing some lineups with the idea in mind that you're going to change those lineups at 10 o'clock when those warm-ups hit, because if Atkinson's back and 3 games are locked by then, nobody knows that he's back. What's his ownership going to be? Like 3% or 4% or something like that? And you can make an argument he's like a top 3 winger on the slate. So I'm going to make some lineups with guys around the 5,500 to 6K range in the utility so that I can switch in Atkinson if need be. How you're going to construct those lineups, that's up to you guys. I'd want to make sure that somehow, some way, I can get some exposure to the Jackets in the late game, because I think there's a really good opportunity here for people to pay attention to those that aren't paying attention to the news.
Yeah, especially it's not like it's just some scrub coming back that you're going to get at low ownership. Like Atkinson is a goal scorer. He's a guy who hopefully will be playing on the power play. We've seen him off the power play a number of times this season as the Blue Jackets try to figure out what they're doing. But yeah, that's a great point on the Atkinson call. I'm definitely going to build some lineups or just like purposely leave some salary on a portion of my lineups so I can swap if need be, because I think that's definitely one worth building for. And if you're wrong, like if he doesn't come back or whatever, then whatever, you could still pop in whoever, whether it's
Yeah, I
Nyquist,
mean, like
Foligno.
worst comes to worst, you just drop down to Gustav Nyquist, who's like $400 cheaper or something like that. So
Yeah,
I mean, it's probably not ideal that you'd have a one-off Gustav Nyquist or something like that, but I think it's worth taking that chance.
yeah, for
At
sure.
least not in every lineup, but 10% of your lineups or something like that, or 5% of your lineups or whatever.
I like it. Do you have any interest in stacking Columbus? With that being said,
No,
okay,
none. I just who knows what the lines are going to be like, and with only that game left to switch to, like I don't want to have to, try to screw around with my lines at 11 o'clock at night or whatever. So I'm not stacking anything outright. It'd just be using one offs. Maybe something like I like David Savard here on this as a cheap defenseman here on the slate. So maybe Savard plus Atkinson or Savard plus Dubois or something like that. But no, I'm not 3-man stacking lines.
okay, yeah. Man, this should make for an interesting slate because I'm not getting to a lot of Columbus, but you're gonna have to be because I don't think these are gonna be the lines that we're gonna see what we're showing on the screen, and you're probably not gonna know for sure before lock, so we'll see. But yeah, I think with 100 lineups, I'm gonna have to build just some random CBJ dummy lines, whether I just go like Dubois, Jenner, Nyquist, and then just work my way down once we get lines, and maybe include a defenseman. You could do that with the rules in Fantasy Cruncher, so I'm gonna do that and just see what happens. But
I mean, everybody's cheap enough on that team where if you have Dubois, Atkinson, and Werenski in your lineup or something like that, you can switch to like absolutely any combination that you want. So like that's the nice thing about Columbus here tonight.
For sure. I like it. I like the call. What about the Kings side? Kopitar, I follow to Foley correlated on the power play, top unit. And then you've got this second line that's actually been playing pretty well for the Kings. Lizotte, Kempe, and Wagner. I guess those would probably be the only two lines that people are going to look at. Maybe they look at the third, Carter, Brown, and Prokorin. I don't know. I don't really have much in this game, to be honest, outside of the late Atkinson stuff.
Yeah, I do like the Kings top line, but more just Kopitar and Toffoli, leave off Iafallo. Like I just don't think Iafallo has any offensive upside. Think of Alex Iafallo. He's spent pretty much his entire career on the top line for Los Angeles, and he has like 30 career goals in 200 games or something like that. Like he's averaging like 12 goals every 82 games. He's playing every single minute alongside Anze Kopitar. Like he's just, anyways. Like that line does have great numbers together, and I wrote about it in the section on Toffoli in my Power Plays article this morning about how good they are going back, a year or 2 years, because Toffoli has gotten time on the top line, just not extended run like he's getting right now. So Kopitar, Toffoli is a 2-man. You can add Doughty if you want. I don't think it's necessary to add Doughty because this is a tough matchup. Columbus is a good defensive team, so seeing the Kings put up 5 or 6 goals here, it would have to be because Merzlikins just fell on his face and not because the Kings, played so well. So I don't like relying on a goalie to suck. So Toffoli and Kopitar as a 2-man. Maybe if you want to add like Matt Roy or something like that as a punt defenseman, then I'm fine with that. Derek Forbort might be back, so maybe hold up on the on the Matt Roy. So basically just Toffoli and Kopitar. I don't have as much interest in the rest of the roster.
Yeah, they're a brutal team to try to figure out, as are the Blue Jackets. So this game, outside of just swapping and giving yourself a chance if you're close to a bink, not very fun. Like if this were an 8-game slate, I don't know that I've had anything from this game. But since it's a 4-gamer, since it's the last game, you're gonna have opportunities to get weird here. But I'm probably gonna end up under the field on LA1. It looks like might get to some LA2, that line that I mentioned. And then Sean Walker is a guy I'm playing some of at 3,400 just as one of those punt guys, playing 20 minutes, blocking some shots. And I don't know, he's not great, but he's just a guy that I need in some of my lineups. But yeah, goalie takes before we get out of here.
I mean,
Smith.
I hate that. I mean, my nice riding on Mike Smith. I don't feel very good about this. Like I do like Smith because it is a great leverage spot. If he has a good night, you're gonna leap over 30% of the field.
And probably even more just with thinking about how many lineups are actually going to have multiple leaves, even if they don't have 3 or 4
Yeah,
minutes
you
back.
might skip 50% of the field. So, like, I think it's really worth. Obviously, if you're in a one lineup situation, like it's tough to pin all your hopes on Mike Smith. I just think it's a really, really good leverage spot. Merzlikins is the other guy that I have some interest in. The Kings just don't score a lot of goals. Like they just Toffoli and Kopitar are the maybe Brown are the only guys capable of scoring goals on this entire roster. And none of them, like I think there's 2 30-goal seasons or 3 30-goal seasons between them. Like there's just not a lot of goals on this roster. So Smith and Merzlikins, if you want cheap, if you want to pay up a little bit more, I don't like Hellebuck should see a lot of volume here tonight, and he's cheap as well. So I like Varlamov here tonight, but I don't really see a need to spend over 7,200 at goalie. It'd just be one of Hellebuck, Merzlikins, or Mike Smith.
Yeah, I'll add. I'm playing a decent amount of Francouz for the Avs here. If you're not playing the Islanders, that's a guy that I'm getting to some. It's gross though for goalie. Like you're either stuck with like a Mike Smith or you're paying up for AK Carey Price, which I don't even mind. But then like everyone's gonna play the goalies in this game, in this last game that don't correlate. I think so. We'll see. Goalie, like always the least interesting thing to talk about for me personally, at least. Especially with the new bonuses because it's all
I mean like what like all you can do is look for shot volume and then cross your fingers.
Yep, exactly. Even more so than before than in previous years. All right, we've got a couple promos going on. Just want to mention before we get out of here, promo code 2020. That's how you get 20 days of Osmo Plus Platinum for $20. Drop that link in chat. I also dropped in the New Year promo. If you want to lock in for a year, $200 off your Osmo Plus Platinum yearly package for the first year. If you commit to us, NHL projections. I will update these right after the show. If anything needs to be updated, I think we're pretty much good to go as far as stuff we know is going to happen. But I'll take a look at those afterwards. NBA expert survey. When that comes out, that will be free today as well. Get analysis from each of our guys answering some of the hot topic questions of the night. Anything else before we get out of here?
Nothing. Just make sure you get at least one share of Cam Atkinson here tonight, assuming he does play.
Yep, I agree. Shout out to Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. Go support them. They support us, so it's only right if you do the same. Promo code OSMO is how you get up to $30 in Yahoo Sports rewards points. It'll be Nolan and I back tomorrow for the big slate, hopefully with some money in our accounts. Good luck tonight, guys.
Good luck, everyone.